And this is Gavel to Gavel, WCVW-TV's complete coverage of Richmond City Council. Good evening once again. I'm Dick Harmon. Welcome to our first and, as far as I know, will be our only meeting for the month of December, unless they decide to defeat that one paper that was put in there to dispense with the December 23rd meeting. We've got 34 items on the agenda tonight. We have 12 on the consent, 9 appointments, 6 reappointments, and 7 regular, but that will change, and we'll be running over that in a few minutes. But first, I'd like to introduce our guest tonight, the council member from the 3rd District, the Honorable Chris Hilbert. Yeah. I'm getting confused here. There's all these things. But, Councilman, welcome, first off.
Well, thank you for having me, Mr. Harmon. I really appreciate the opportunity to visit with the viewers out there.
You've been on council 9 years now. You're getting to be a real veteran with this.
I think so. You know, I used to be one of the younger members, but that's not the case anymore. But I've really enjoyed my time. 9 years is a lot of time, but I have some great constituents, and I really love working for them and appreciate the opportunity to come down here and support what they would like for me to do.
That's the thing I don't think people realize. You're representing a whole district. You're not just thinking for you. You're thinking for yourself, but you're also thinking, in fact, you have to represent the whole district.
Absolutely, and I have a diverse district. It begins, the southern tip of the district is Gilpin Court, and it goes all the way up to Ginner Park, my neighborhood, goes over to Highland Park, Providence Park, doesn't go into Highland Park, but and then we have, with the new redistricting, all the way over to Newtown West, where the governor's school is, that was added to the district with the 2010 redistricting plan that council approved. So I have a very diverse district with lots of varying needs, and I really enjoy that. I think it's a wonderful group of folks, and I've enjoyed getting to know them.
Now, we talk about the governor's school and brings you up with the governor. We have a new governor coming in. We have a new lieutenant governor. The attorney general was still kind of up in the air about this. There's going to be a count of it. But what major issues do you see coming up now with this new administration?
Well, I think it's always the budget is certainly an issue, and we want to fight for what the city can get within that budget, schools and education. And I know that the governor during the campaign, governor-elect, talked about education a lot and putting jobs first. So we're interested in working with him in that vein in the new administration. I think there's one proposal out there right now from Delegate Lupasi, or it will be forthcoming, on the RMA representation. And I think the concept that he put forward of equal representation with a unanimous vote of the members being necessary to carry something forward. And I really like the idea of working together as a region on our transportation issues. I would like, however, this is going to be a regional transportation authority, I'd like for the bus system to be included in that. The city can't continue to run this by itself, and I think there's a lot of need beyond the city limits, and I would look for that to be our first step towards cooperating regionally on our transportation issues. There's a lot of money on the table, and we're going to leave a lot of money on the table if we don't move forward as a region. I want to do that, but I don't think you can legitimately call yourself a transportation authority if the mass transit, or in this case the bus system, is left to one jurisdiction.
Now, I was looking at one of the things, we were talking about sports beforehand. At John Marshall High School got a grant from the NFL to build a new football field. However, the grant is not going to cover the whole cost. So where does that stand?
No, it's not. And what we're trying to do, the students themselves launched a fundraising campaign, and we want and invited the whole community to contribute. You know, sometimes I don't think when we're not asked to sacrifice or to contribute to something that we don't. So I'm going to make that ask right now and ask for people to call my office at 646-6055 to find out more information on this, and we can direct you to their website as well as talk through some of the issues on that. But this is desperately needed. John Marshall cannot host a track meet because their track field is in such poor condition. they play football games on Saturdays in the morning versus playing them on Friday night because there's no lights on the field. This is really something that needs to be addressed, and I think our young people appreciate that the investments that we make in them are reflective of where they are in the attention span. And so I think it sends a bad message to our kids when these facilities aren't maintained in the manner in which they should be. And John Marshall has a great tradition in football, as well as probably more so in basketball. But maybe we can pick the game up over there a little bit if we have improved facilities.
I know many years ago I was a play-by-play announcer for Hopewell High School football and basketball. I remember playing at John Marshall, and that was always one of the most loud and enthusiastic crowds. I mean, they were polite, but they let it be known they were John Marshall.
Yes, the justices really get into it over there. The gymnasium is pretty small and pretty loud. I think it gives them a home court advantage. And last year, the boys basketball team was runner-up in the state. We'd like to improve upon that this year, and so we're looking forward to Coach White and the guys coming out and doing a great job. And the girls basketball team over there is doing a good job as well. We are really hopeful, though, that they can carry forward a state championship. No pressure, though, but we'd certainly love to be celebrating that over in the north side and really for the whole city.
As long as we're on the sports theme right now, the ballpark, the people of the 3rd District are going to have their chance to get their input to you coming up this week.
Absolutely, yes. And I want to hear from people, and as I said, participation is everything. And we have a great network of civic associations in the 3rd District, something that not all my colleagues enjoy. But folks let me know, either through that organization or individually, how they feel about these issues. And we are going to have our our district meeting is this week, December the 11th at 6 p.m. at Pine Camp, which is located at 4901 Oldbrook Road. And it is next to Henderson Middle School and John Marshall over there, right there together. And I anticipate a lively discussion. I've received a lot of emails and phone calls to my office about this issue. It's generated a lot of buzz, and I want to make sure that folks get a chance to let me know what they're thinking, and as well as there'll be administration folks there. They've been invited, and we'll just see how that rolls. We are going to have some small refreshments there. And speaking of John Marshall, the John Marshall band will be there, getting us in the holiday experience. So should be a good thing. We've invited them out for entertainment. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows about this, but that they also feel free to email me at chris.hilbert@richmondgov.com or call my office 646-6055. We really want that input. It's a complicated transaction. We voted earlier this year about having a referendum on it. I voted against that because I felt like that was our responsibility to do that. Not that people aren't smart enough to figure this out. They're plenty smart, and the best ideas I get are when I'm listening to them. But one fellow put it pretty succinctly when he said, "Chris, what are we paying you for?" And I think that was a good point. And it is complicated. I think that the tradition of Boulevard baseball is weighing heavy on some of the folks that I speak with. But I have told a community a civic association meeting, that I'm very interested in preserving the heritage sites there in Chaco Bottom, the burial grounds, as well as the Lumpkins jail site. This was, from what I understand, from 1808 to 1865, hundreds of thousands of individuals were bought and sold at the slave market down there. It's an ugly part of our history, but it's a history that we need to tell and to turn towards, and for some reconciliation in our community. We have a higher burden, I believe, here in the city of Richmond for our history to be able to carry that message forward of racial reconciliation. And Nelson Mandela died this past week, and it was my high honor to see him in 1993 at the first Clinton inaugural ball. I was there, and he came into an auditorium without announcement and so forth, but people noticed him and started a buzz, and everyone in the auditorium turned around and gave him a standing ovation. Of an amazing man who passed 27 years in jail unjustly, and he forgave the people that had done this to him. And I think it was a major statement to everybody around the world. Forgiveness is a powerful thing, but if you don't acknowledge what happened, it's hard to get to that point. So I'm hoping that we can do the Lumpkins Jail. I'd like to see us do a National Slavery Museum here in Richmond. I think it can also be a tool for economic development. From what I understand, 80% of the folks in the United States now who come from African descent can trace their ancestry back to the slave market. I think it would be an amazing place for family reunions and scholars to visit and talk about this slave trade that went on here. And really, Richmond is a story of redemption, and it's also a city of rights and of human rights, whether it be religious freedom, whether it be Patrick Henry talking about give me liberty or give me death, and the emancipation here in the city when at the end of the Civil War and President Lincoln coming here, and but we also have the tyranny side of what happened here in Richmond. And I think we need to tell that whole story, but that there can and will be light at the end of the tunnel, but only if we're seeking that light. And so I'm really hoping that's critically important to me, that this is an economic development plan as the mayor has proposed it, but I do believe that the preservation of those sites and the building of a museum, as well as the preservation of the Lumpkins Jail site and acknowledgement of the burial grounds down there is critical to us moving forward as a community. So I'm excited about that possibility, and baseball will certainly be part of that discussion, but I want to make sure that we keep our eye on the ball that this is an economic development proposal, and I'm sure we'll have some twists and turns along the way. And I really want this vetted out. I don't want anyone to feel like we're rushing through this. This is a critical decision, and one that I take very seriously, and I believe the other members of council do as well.
Okay. Now, I want to let you get to work here because we're about ready to kick this thing off. But you've got holiday event coming up in the 3rd District on MacArthur Avenue?
Yes, this Saturday at 11 a.m. on MacArthur Avenue, which is just off of Laburnum Avenue. It's a major business center for the Bellevue neighborhood, and you have a yoga place, a coffee shop, I'm going to leave somebody out, restaurants, and the best wine store in the city is there, and those merchants get together every year and throw Christmas on MacArthur, and the streets all decorated. There'll be a parade there, as well as just ongoing activities for the rest of the day. This event raises more or gets more Toys for Tots than any other single event in the metro area. So I would encourage people to come out and to bring a toy with them so we can continue that tradition. And I appreciate the merchants along that corridor putting this on every year.
Okay, well, I'll let you get to work now. Guest has been Chris Hilbert, the 3rd District Councilman for the City of Richmond for the past 9 years, and well, who knows how many more years. You seem to be enjoying yourself, and I know you're not in it for the money.
No, No.
Having seen the pay scales of this place, according to some of the other cities, nobody here is in it for the money, but they're in it for the service, and I think you all do a great job. So thank you for taking some time.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Chris Hilbert has been our guest, and now we'll take a quick look at the agenda for tonight. And so we've got 34 items, but if we have time to go through some of these, we'll start off with item number 1. That one is special use at 70579 Libby Avenue. That's going to be continued to the 13th of January. Item 2 is special use for properties at 2300, 2306 Jefferson Avenue for restaurant uses, etc. That stays on consent. Item 3 will be continued. That's special use at 1213 West Lee. Item 4 stays on the agenda. That is special use at 1314 Parkwood Avenue for the purpose of permitting a two-family detached dwelling. Item 5 is going to be continued. That's a special use at 2116 Rear West Carey Street. That'll be continued till the 13th. Item 6, public safety building to be used as a shelter for homeless persons in the city during exposed extreme temperatures. That stays on consent. So does number 7, that allows display of banners along Robinson Street in the Fan District. Item number 8, this is amending, this is going to concern the bus fares they were talking about for the CARE bus fare service. That is, this paper will delay the increase in fares till July 1st, 2014. That's a new fare deadline. There's some other items that we talked about with that as well. Item 8 accepts $32,497 from RMA for funding maintenance on Carytown and Crenshaw Avenue and 16 South Colonial Avenue. The consolidated action plan will be moved to the regular agenda. Item 11, that's going to be settling certain claims by certain owners of real property abutting Princeton Creek, stays on the consent agenda. So does item number 12, which dispenses with our next meeting, the December 23rd meeting. So that will not be, if that passes, which I'm sure it will, we will not be meeting but one time this month. So I think we're getting about ready to start here. So we will be going to appointments and reappointments as they come along. And it's time to get started with tonight's City Council meeting.
For the innumerable lessons of its past, for the unimaginable hope of its future, for its breathtaking beauty in scenes natural and made by human hands, for the wonderful ways it turns us all into neighbors, for those who have answered the call to take care of it, for all the people who make it a place to call home, we say thank you. And now from prejudice and fear and from ignorance, from duplicity, from apathy, and from petty partisanship, we say, deliver us. May we instead be filled with fairness, with courage, with wisdom, with integrity, with compassion, and with goodwill one for another as we seek the peace and prosperity of this, our home, our city, Richmond. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And thank you, Reverend Joplin and young Mr. Joplin. Madam Clerk, would you please give the Chamber Emergency Evacuation Plan announcement and the Citizen Speaker's guidelines?
Yes. Upon activation of the emergency alarm systems, all persons should exit the building. Please use the exit to the left and right front of the council chamber or the east or west stairway outside the rear doors of the chamber. Please do not use the elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, proceed to the assembly area located in the parking lot bordered by Clay 8th and 9th Streets. Citizens and employees should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. Citizen Speaker guidelines. Citizen wishing to speak during public hearing and/or citizen comment period generally have 3 minutes to speak. Persons appearing before council are not allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business venture, use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person, including comments directed at public officials or staff members that are not related to their official duties, or address or question staff members directly. All questions should be directed to the President of Council. Failure to adhere to the guidelines may result in speakers forfeiting any remaining time and future disciplinary action as necessary, which could include barring from attendance at future meetings of the City Council meetings for a period of 6 months.
Mr. President, all members of council are in attendance this evening. It is my understanding that Councilor Balaus is in the adjacent room.
Thank you very much. Would you please read the appointments and reappointments on tonight's agenda?
Yes. Appointments for this evening will be as follows, and when I call your name, if you would please stand. Item number 13, resolution number 2013-R258, to appoint Daniel Arkin as a member of the Richmond Regional Planning District Commission for a term terminating November 22nd, 2016, succeeding Luther R. Ashworth. Item 14, resolution number 2013-R259, to appoint Rosalind Battle as a member of the Social Services Advisory Board for a term terminating June 23rd, 2016, succeeding Eileen G. Craig. Item 15, resolution number 2013-R260, to appoint Jennifer N. Cesar as a member of the Aging and Disabilities Advisory Board for a term terminating December 9th, 2016. Item 16, resolution number 2013-R261, to appoint Max Hep Buchanan as a member of the Highway Safety Commission for a term terminating December 9th, 2016. Item 17, resolution number 2013-R262, to appoint A. Lynn Ivy III as a member of the Aging and Disability Advisory Board for a term terminating December 9th, 2016. Item 18, resolution number 2013-R263, to appoint Rory Rowan as a member of the Highway Safety Commission for a term terminating December 9th, 2016. Item 19, resolution number 2013-R264, to appoint William Steele as a member of the Citizen Transportation Advisory Committee to the Metropolitan Planning Organization for a term terminating November 23rd, 2015, succeeding Tyrone K. Bay. Item number 20, resolution number 2013-R265, will be continued later this evening. Item 21, resolution number 2013-R266, to appoint Fatima Yusofi as a member of the Highway Safety Commission for a term terminating December 11, 2015, succeeding David A. Ingraff. Item 22, resolution number 2013-R267, to reappoint Stacy L. Burr as a member of the Minority Business Enterprise and Emerging Small Businesses Advisory Board for a term terminating January 1, 2017. Item 23, resolution number 2013-R268, to reappoint Chris Early as a member of the Green City Commission for a term terminating October 25th, 2016. Item 24, resolution number 2013-R269, to reappoint Richard S. Johnson as a member of the Economic Development Authority for a term terminating November 28th, 2017. Item 25, resolution number 2013-R270, to reappoint Mary Jo Joseph as a member of the Personnel Board for a term terminating January 10th, 2017. Item 26, resolution number 2013-R271, to reappoint Jeffron T. Neal as a member of the Personnel Board for a term terminating January 10th, 2017. And item 27, resolution number 2013-R272, to reappoint Harold L. Watkins II as a member of the Capital Area Alcohol Safety Action Program Policy Advisory Board for a term terminating January 10th, 2017. Mr. President, those are all of the appointments and reappointments for consideration this evening.
Thank you so much, and thank you all each for your willingness to serve on the various boards and commissions to make our city and our region a better place. After the vote is taken, there's a gentleman with a bow tie and a blue jacket waving at you. If you'll go meet him in the clerk's office, he will perform the oath of office for you. You all may be seated. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to any of these appointments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for any discussion. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, council is voting on the appointments and reappointments as presented. Mr. Beliles? Ms. Graziano?
Aye.
Ms. Mosby?
Aye.
Mr. Agelasto?
Aye.
Mr. Hilbert?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Newville?
Aye.
Vice President Robertson?
Aye.
President Samuels?
Aye.
Those papers have all been adopted.
Thank you all again for your willingness to serve. If you'll follow Mr. Rawls to the clerk's office, you'll have the oath of office performed. You're always invited back to watch the rest of council, but you don't have to. Madam Clerk, I believe we have 2 awards tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct. The first recognition being presented by Council President Charles Samuels recognizes Bobby Vincent, Deputy Director of Operations with Richmond's Department of Public Works, for more than 20 years of public service to our community. A sterling example of excellence in public service, Mr. Bobby Vincent has earned a solid reputation from Richmond residents for his professionalism and for constantly going above and beyond the call of duty to help solve issues and address changing needs that are unique to individual neighborhoods. This is especially true of the work with the Fan District Association, for which he has been heralded for his efforts on behalf of mitigating refuse and bulk trash issues, and for his assistance with the Richmond Special Residential Parking District Clean Sweep program that was established in the fall of 2012. Joining the City of Richmond in November of 1992, Mr. Vincent has dedicated more than 21 years of service to Richmond residents. During this time, Mr. Vincent has been recognized for being a caring and genuine advocate for the community and is highly valued by for his expert technical knowledge. The honorable members of Richmond City Council and the Honorable Mayor Dwight C. Jones hereby recognize, honor, and celebrate Mr. Bobby Vincent, Deputy Director of Operations for the Richmond Department of Public Works, for his service to our community, and thank him for helping to make our city an even better place.
Congratulations, Mr. Vincent. I couldn't be more proud to be up on stage here today talking with you about this. For those of you who don't know, while I love to take credit for everything I can, this is a request that came from members of the neighborhoods in the 2nd District, and specifically the Fan District Association, for the incredible work Mr. Vincent has done, the dedication to his job, the commitment to doing it right and doing it right the first time. And Mr. Vincent, while it gives me great pleasure to laud city employees, it gives me even greater pleasure when the request comes from satisfied constituents. You're an honor to the city, and after 21 years of hard work, I greatly hope that we'll see another 21 years.
Mr. Vincent, on behalf of Mayor Jones, I can't speak directly to the work that's been done in the Fan where Mr. Samuels lives, since you haven't finished the museum district's work yet. But as soon as you have, I know I will be equally happy. However, I can speak to the can-do attitude that you have in City Hall day in, day out, and you really make things happen. So thank you very much.
Usually at this point we'd give you a chance to talk, which I still want to do, but I didn't know if the Fan District Association had anything they'd like to say.
Well, we would just like to publicly thank Mr. Vincent for his collaboration, his hard work. He's been very responsive. I'm here with several other board members, and we just, far too often I think people complain about city officials and not getting it done, and we just thought it would be nice to acknowledge an individual and a team that has gotten it done. The neighborhood looks better, and it's directly attributed to Mr. Vincent's efforts. So we wanted to thank you, and we appreciate all you do for us.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Mr. James Henry, as well as Ms. Tricia Bryant of the FDA, as well as Mr. Bill Montgomery, FDA President, Charles Samuels, City Council President and 2nd District Representative, as well as Mr. James A. Jackson, the Director of Public Works, Byron Marshall, CAO, the Honorable Dwight C. Jones, the Mayor of the City of Richmond, and the citizens of the City of Richmond for providing me the opportunity to provide the various services requested throughout the City of Richmond. I would like to take just a moment to recognize the true heroes of the Fan District Association and the city, the men and women of DPW. Individuals such as Irene Lee of Solid Waste, Kevin Roy of Street Cleaning, George Bacon of Grounds Maintenance, Rosalind Stewart of Balk and Brush, Joe Huddleston of Urban Forestry, Randy Chalmers, and Charles Dixon of Roadway Maintenance. These individuals are amongst the many who provide the services required to collect over 18,000 bulk tickets, repair over 12,000 potholes, collect 17,000 tons of leaves, clean 20,000 lane miles of streets, and cut over 2,500 acres of grass, and finally, last but not least, empty over 4,000 super cans on an annual basis. Without the hard work of these individuals and their colleagues, our city would not be able to function. Problems do exist throughout our city, very similar to every city across this nation, thus the need for DPW to respond to over 35,000 citizen requests on an annual basis. However, in our city, the great city on the banks of the James River, a city that is striving to become a Tier 1, we have a team of seasoned professionals capable of taking care of its citizens through natural disasters, such as winter and/or tropical storms, and man-made issues such as sinkholes and illegal dumping. It is on behalf of these individuals that I say thank you for your recognition of the services we strive to provide. Thank you, FDA. Thank you, City Council.
The next recognition being presented by Councilor Parker Agelasto and Suzette Denslow, Chief of Staff, Office of the Mayor, recognizes the Richmond Area High Blood Pressure Center on its 30th anniversary. Present to receive the recognition is David Baldwin, Executive Director of the Richmond Area High Blood Pressure Center. Established in Richmond in 1983, the Richmond Area High Blood Pressure Center is located at 1200 West Carey Street and serves as Virginia's only free clinic devoted exclusively to treating and preventing hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, and diabetes. Committed to community wellness, the Richmond Area High Blood Pressure Center provides health education, low-cost medication, chronic disease care, and case management on behalf of residents of the greater Richmond area. Over the years, the Richmond Area High Blood Pressure Center has earned a solid reputation for its dedication to serve all residents. Having served more than 25,000 patients during the past 3 decades, it is estimated that the services provided by the Richmond Area High Blood Pressure Center have helped to prevent thousands of incidents of strokes, heart attacks, kidney disease, emergency room visits, and other medical difficulties, saving millions of dollars in hospital bills. Richmond City Council and Mayor Dwight C. Jones hereby recognize, honor, and celebrate the Richmond Area High Blood Pressure Center on the occasion of its 30th anniversary, and thanks them for helping to make our community an even healthier and better place.
Well, this is truly something that I'm honored to recognize the Center for High Blood Pressure. This is one of those diseases that affects so many of us. 1 in 4 Americans suffer from some form of hypertension. And these are conditions, a lot of people think, oh, you can condition it yourself. Well, a lot of the times it's hereditary. And I have parents with high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and it's something that they have to work very hard to manage. And I imagine that there are many people in this room who have similar situations in their families. And the Center for High Blood Pressure has been around for 30 years, and we're recognizing them on this anniversary for the work that they do in the city of Richmond and the surrounding communities to provide the testing services and the regular maintenance checkups that people need who are suffering from high blood pressure, from high cholesterol, and other hypertension syndromes. And so it's a real honor to recognize you all on this anniversary. I know the city of Richmond has played a role in that 30-year history, and we're very honored to continue to support your work. And I also commend you on the expansion that you are undergoing right now on Carey Street so that you can continue the good work and expand the services to even more of the city's residents. So thank you, and a few words from the mayor's representative.
On behalf of Mayor Jones, thank you very much for the work you've done. It's a labor of love, I'm sure, but for the education, for the wellness focus, as well as for making sure people are able to do whatever it is to prevent or ameliorate, to the extent possible, high blood pressure. So thank you very much for your efforts.
Well, I'll just say a couple of quick words. My name is Dan Carl. I'm the volunteer medical director and chairman of the board. I'm a physician down at VCU, just 2 or 3 blocks away from here. And I think in this changing health world, what we're going through right now, I think 30 years is really no small feat. And I think the number of people that we treat there, which is close to about 1,000 individual patients a year who really have nowhere else to turn, is just monumental by itself. And I think the center really grew out of a public-private kind of collaboration, and we wouldn't be here without you guys. And we appreciate that very much, and we thank you for that.
Yeah. Quickly. When we went back through our records and we discovered the original documents, the first meetings that gave birth to this public-private partnership, we decided to print those out and give you a copy as proof that, yeah, your predecessors were doing good work in the community, and they gave birth to something that has saved millions, if not, depending on the math you use, billions in unnecessary medical costs and saved families' lives. So with that, we wanted to give the city, and we'll give it to you, Parker, with a certificate of appreciation for not only giving birth to the center, but the opportunity to serve the way we do in the community. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, just as a note, this will be the last City Council meeting in which Suzette Dinslow will be appearing on behalf of the administration. She is leaving city employment for state employment once again, being named Deputy Chief of Staff for Governor-elect Terry McAuliffe. She's been a great asset to the city, a great asset to the administration. While we're sorry to see her go, we are happy to have a mouth so close to the ear of the new governor. So good luck to you, Suzette, your new job, and we really appreciate all the work you did here in the city. Madam Clerk, may we please review the list of amendments to tonight's agenda?
Yes, the amendment to tonight's agenda are as follows. Item 1, ordinance number 2013-205 will be continued to January 13th council meeting. Item 3, ordinance number 2013-234 will be continued to January 13th council meeting. Item 5, ordinance number 2013-236 will be continued to January 13th council meeting. Item 10, ordinance number 2013-242 has been moved to the regular agenda. Item 11, resolution number 2013-R254 will be continued to January 27th council meeting. Item 20, resolution number 2013-R265 will be continued to January 13th council meeting. Item 28, ordinance number 2013-180 has been moved to the consent agenda. Item 29, ordinance number 2013-221 will be withdrawn. Item 32, ordinance number 2013-237 has been moved to the consent agenda. Item 33, resolution number 2013-R252 will be continued to January 13th council meeting. At item 34, resolution number 2013-R255 will be continued to January 27th council meeting. And those are all the amendments I have thus far.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I believe item 10 is actually, after discussing with colleagues, is actually going to remain on the consent agenda. Item 10, ordinance number 2013-242 will remain on consent agenda.
Okay.
Council President,
Mr. Edgelas.
I have one additional question. Which paper was being withdrawn?
The paper being withdrawn is item, I believe, 29, which is to... I'm hearing everybody say it's actually number 30, not item number 29 that's being withdrawn. My apologies to the clerk's office.
So just for clarification, item number 30, ordinance number 2013-222 is being withdrawn?
Yes, and item 29, 2013-221, and item 31, 2013-223 will remain on the regular agenda. Ms. Graziano.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I ask if we could have a paper that is on to be continued? We have two papers, paper 2013-221 and 2013-223, in light of the fact that the lease agreement paper is being withdrawn and that the present agreements will remain in place as long as the squirrels play in the present location. And in light of the RMA meeting tomorrow, I would request that we consider those two papers tonight.
Yes, ma'am. They'll be kept on the regular agenda. Okay. Madam Clerk, I believe those are the only additional amendments.
Councilor Graziano, will you make the motion to approve the agenda as read?
So moved.
Mr. Blouse?
Aye.
Ms. Graziano?
Aye.
Ms. Mosby?
Aye.
Mr. Angelesto?
Aye.
Mr. Hilbert?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Newbill?
Aye.
Vice President Robertson?
Aye.
President Samuel?
Aye.
The amended agenda is before you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to do the regular agenda, which should consist of two papers.
Yes, the first regular agenda item is item number 29, ordinance number 2013-221, to accept from the Richmond Metropolitan Authority a lease of easement for the purpose of parking located in the vicinity of North Boulevard, Robin Hood Road, and Hermitage Road.
Thank you. And would you please read also item number 31?
Yes, item 31 is ordinance number 2013-223, to declare a public necessity for and to authorize the acquisition of 3003 North Boulevard for the purpose of owning, maintaining, and operating a stadium, arena, or sports facility.
Thank you. Are there those here? Well, let's do this. Is there someone from the administration here that would like to explain what these two papers do before we have speakers in favor or in opposition? Mr. Marshall.
Good evening, Council. Byron Marshall, Chief Administrative Officer. The two papers before you do two things. About 40 years ago, when the city purchased land for the construction of a baseball facility, it was done with the assumption that when baseball was no longer played, that the land would be returned to the city's ownership. What this does is puts that into effect. One of these papers puts that into effect. So when baseball is no longer played at the Diamond, the stadium at that point would revert to the ownership of the city. What we're proposing is that that transaction take place now, that the deed be put in escrow, and once that condition is met, that is, minor league baseball is no longer played there, then the city would, the ownership of the land would return to the city. The city also issued an easement, and that easement is being used for parking. We would take ownership of the easement again, or the easement actually would be ended, but they would still be able to use the land for parking. So nothing would change with respect to the operations of the Diamond. Parking would still take place, the split of the revenues would be the same, the operating agreements between the jurisdictions and RMA would be, this would remain the same, the lease between the squirrels and the RMA would remain the same. The only thing that would happen at this juncture with these two papers is that the city would get the easement back now and get the ownership of the facility in its possession once baseball was no longer played there. That's it.
Thank you. Questions from City Council members? Mr. Agelasto?
Mr. Marshall, the ordinance that would declare it a public necessity to take ownership of the RMA property and transfer the deed for a nominal consideration here, in the actual ordinance, I don't see where it states that baseball no longer has to be played there for the transference of the property.
That would actually be part of the sales agreement, yes.
With it out being in the ordinance, City Attorney, how can that be, I mean, can it be binding? Or if in the discussions with the RMA, that doesn't become part of the actual agreement, how does City Council then have the ability to confirm that that was what we thought was happening, since we don't have any protections in this ordinance?
Well, first, the ordinance is written broadly enough to accommodate a transfer agreement such as the Chief Administrative Officer described to you. In terms of assurances that the document that will be executed by the parties carries out the plan as described by Mr. Marshall, the ordinance also provides that all agreements have to be approved as to form by my office. So your assurance is that we won't approve something that doesn't accomplish what Mr. Marshall has described to you.
And there's a provision in here that says it's either your office or a designee thereof?
It's the city attorney or his designee, in other words, me or one of my attorneys.
Any other comments or questions? So, Mr. Marshall,
President.
Mr. Hilbert.
Thank you. Sometimes before this body, we receive a contract ahead of time, and it's concerning to me that that isn't here now. I appreciate the city's interest in this property. This is, we gave this to the RMA to run a baseball stadium here, and I'm just concerned that that this situation is going to present us a choice of jamming up the city, in that you move the stadium off of this and the city gets this property back, or you don't and we won't. And so I'm concerned about that. Did I make myself clear?
Not quite.
I think I did.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that by voting for this, in that the provision being that baseball is no longer played on this site, that then the issue becomes that if a proposal that's out there to move the stadium does not pass this body, then the only way we can get this property back is to move it, is to move the stadium. And I don't like that choice because I feel like that presents a false choice.
Council member, if I can.
Yes, sir.
When the land was donated to the RMA, it was donated with the understanding that a stadium would be built on it. There was no provision to return the land to the city. That may have been the intent, but no provision exists. So once we noticed that, we negotiated with the other jurisdictions to have the land returned to us. It would be returned to us once minor league baseball is no longer played there. Now, the council could choose not to agree with the mayor's proposal to put a baseball facility in the bottom, and could at some point decide it wanted to, or baseball could be played elsewhere on the diamond. But you still would want to get the land back. No matter where you play baseball, if it's not played in an existing place, in the existing facility, you would not, I would think, want to have 30 acres tied up that you could not use.
No, we certainly wouldn't. And this is, it seems like to me that this is a reference to just this site and not tied to the facility itself. But if you move the facility on this, but was still on the parcel of 3003 North Boulevard, that would still not present the opportunity for the city to get this property back.
If you were to build a baseball stadium elsewhere on the boulevard, other than this specific property, if baseball was no longer played on this specific property, the land would revert to the city. So it would be freed up to do as the city chose.
Okay, do we have the metes and bounds of this,
We do.
of this? Okay, let me look at that again. I didn't believe that we were going to vote on this tonight. I thought that it was going to be continued, and I'm very concerned that it's coming to us in this fashion. And would hope that that we could have the actual document here. I mean, the paper relative to a lease was withdrawn, and I understand that, but it just seems like to me that we certainly would like to have this property, and the fact that it wasn't negotiated in the beginning, I understand that. We need to communicate that with our partners. So are you saying that this has already been negotiated with the other members of the RMA board that have been appointed by other jurisdictions?
Yes, several months ago, the other jurisdictions voted to return the land to the city. We introduced these 3 papers, I think, in October.
Okay.
Right.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no other comment, Mr. Marshall, I just want to make one thing, make sure in my own mind I was perfectly clear. No new liability for anything occurs by voting in favor of these papers and getting this property back from the RMA. The RMA is still on the hook, the city of Richmond is not.
The RMA will continue being responsible for all operating expenses, other than those assumed by the team, to the extent that through revenues garnered by the RMA, to the extent that the expenses exceed the revenues garnered by the RMA, the 3 jurisdictions have to vote to pay for those additional revenues, those additional expenses, and they would be shared equally. What this does do is, at the point that baseball is no longer played there, the city would be responsible for demolishing the facility.
Someone slips and falls in the parking lot and wants to sue somebody.
They would sue everybody, as they would now. There's no change today from yesterday.
We're not on the hook for any maintenance.
No more than we've been all along.
Mr. Agelasta.
Thank you. In one of our earlier conversations, you estimated that should the diamond no longer be used for baseball, that we would then, that's when the ownership triggers and the property would transfer from the RMA to the city of Richmond. But that also comes with all the improvements on the property. And as far as our conversations have gone, you've assured me that the cost of demolition, the city would be responsible for that, and that the estimated cost would be less than $1 million.
So the city would be responsible, and we've estimated the cost to be $1 million or less. That's demolition and site remediation.
When the original RMA arrangements to build the diamond were established, was there any consideration for future demolition costs?
Not that I'm aware of, and I think the assumption was that the partnership would continue, so that when they build a new stadium, part of the stadium costs would be the demolition of the existing stadium.
Have we pursued asking for any contribution from the other jurisdictions for the demolition costs? And I ask that simply because if I'm a landowner and I authorize you to build a house on my property, and then all of a sudden that house gets too old and decrepit, and you kind of say, oh, I'm not going to maintain it anymore, and say, well, then I want my property back. You built the house. Wouldn't you be responsible for tearing it down? Wouldn't I have been smart to ask for that provision when I arranged for you to build on my property?
If you had been smart enough to make that arrangement, yes, you could say, I'm leasing you the land, or I own the land and you own the improvements, and at the end of your arrangement, you have to tear it down. Or at my option, you can leave the improvement there. None of that was negotiated early on. When this was done 40 plus years ago, that was not negotiated. As I said, we really had no way of getting the land back. So we're trying to get the land back at this juncture. We did have a conversation with the other jurisdictions. Their notion is they're not planning to build a new stadium. If we're planning to build a new stadium, the cost of demolition ought to be part of that new stadium development costs.
And it's your understanding that they wouldn't contribute to demolish the stadium that they helped to build?
That is my understanding.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Madam Clerk, I guess we need to see if there's anybody in the audience tonight that has a desire to speak in opposition to this paper. Come on down. If you have a desire to speak in opposition, this is your chance. Please form a line behind Ms. Karn.
Cool. My name is Mo Karn, and I wanted to speak in opposition to these two ordinances. I feel like 221 and 223, or 222, whichever ones, but they are, I think, preemptive, and they're part of a continuous strategy by the mayor and other developers in the city of Richmond to present the Shaco Stadium as a done deal and like it's our only option. I suggest that these ordinances be continued to the January 27th meeting, where a lot of the other Shaco Stadium related ordinances have already been continued to, because we haven't had time to have all of the public meetings to get the feedback from the citizens and the constituents of the city of Richmond as to how they feel about baseball and whether they want it on the boulevard or somewhere else. And we need to get that feedback before city council makes decisions that are going to affect that. And I believe that these two ordinances affect the decision about the baseball stadium. The gentleman who just spoke in favor of these ordinances was using very specific language about how once we don't have a baseball stadium there, and all these sort of predetermined things to just drive the conversation that it's predetermined that we will not have a baseball stadium at the boulevard any longer. And I think that is, I think that's misrepresentative of what the people of the city of Richmond want. And I think that that's pretty sneaky and manipulative to try to make council members feel like they have to vote on this because we won't have baseball there, when that's not a decision that's been made by anyone except for Mayor Jones. So I would encourage y'all to not vote on this, especially since they haven't actually presented any of you with the paperwork containing all of the contracts that I think you really ought to look at before you make a decision. So I say wait until you hear from the city of Richmond and from the people and have all the meetings, and let's get back to this in January.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, citizens. I have a big concern that so much...
Can you state your name for the record?
Yeah, my name is Chris Dorsey. My apologies. That I'm concerned, very concerned, I should say, that so much time is being spent talking about where a minor league baseball team will play its games when there are so many problems that are real problems for the citizens of the city of Richmond. There's outrageous levels of poverty, you know, just things like parking downtown. They can't really be properly dealt with by this governing body, and it seems that the only time the government body of the city of Richmond gets concerned or starts making actions on anything, it is something related to sports. Sports is a diversion. It's a fine pastime for people to watch as a hobby, but it's not really the main function of government to provide a place to play a game that will take up all the time that the government has for public meetings. Baseball is not that important, and just to delve into this particular little games that the council and the mayor are playing, there will be a baseball stadium that a baseball team called the Richmond Squirrels will play in next year. So what I would say is I would wait until there is no baseball stadium at the boulevard to push this piece of legislation through. It seems pretty counterintuitive to go forward with this when there is no alternative baseball stadium, but there is an existing baseball stadium at the spot. So in closing, pay attention to what the needs of the poor people, which is at least half the population of the city of Richmond, need, and don't worry so much about the construction kickbacks you're planning on getting from criminal builders and associated landowners. Thank you very much for your time.
Next speaker, please.
Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of council, my name is Laura Toothman. I'm a resident of the 7th District, and I'm here tonight as a representative for the Alliance for Progressive Values to urge you all to postpone the vote on these two ordinances until January 27th. The Alliance for Progressive Values feels that that you should wait until you've heard from all the citizens who can make it to the public meetings coming up over the next month before you make a decision about these papers. If at the end of that public comment period, the public wants to consider moving baseball from the stadium where it currently is, then we would recommend that you bring it up again in January, but not tonight. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Alan Chincius, and I got to ask you one question, kind of like Clint Eastwood. Council persons, do you feel lucky? You get it? Parker, you asked the question 40 years ago, 30 years ago. What wasn't known? Well, if you had been smart, Mr. Marshall said, if they had been smart, if they had known, and if they had, what don't you know right now? What did you know when you voted for the Redskins deal? That you found out something else afterwards? The economic boom, but I read in the papers that it actually went down. Business. What is it that you don't know about this deal? Why is it that tonight, not even seeing the contract, you're being urged, well, you got to what? What will you know next month or next year that you say, if I had known that? I mean, you all have said that on a vote that you made. Do you think that this time that the bamboozle isn't happening? Do you think they've told you everything? I don't think so. And I know you don't think so. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
My name is Summer Orcutt. I'm not representing anybody but myself. The fact is, you don't know all of the details of this agreement. You wouldn't sign a lease to a house without looking at the house or actually reading the lease agreement. It would be irresponsible. And it's fiscally irresponsible to vote on an agreement that you really don't know anything about besides what the speaker is saying, because they can say a lot of other say a lot of things and ignore a lot of other things that you may not want to hear. And it's also very preemptive to decide on an agreement that would give you ownership of something when you don't really know if the ball diamond is actually going to continue to be played at or if it will be moved. So it's really just an irresponsible decision, and I do think that you should wait until the January meeting where more citizens can come up and speak and give their votes on what they think should happen within their own community. You all are representatives of us, but that means that you have to also listen to what we say and make decisions based off of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Janet Lundy. I'm a voter and a resident of the 2nd District, and I'd like to agree with several other people with what they said, that I really feel that these ordinances should be continued until January, like it says on the agenda. People look at the agenda, it says they're going to be continued, they make plans around that. It seems very underhanded to say that they're going to be continued and then change your mind at the last minute and not continue them. Voting on this before all the everyone would have their chance to speak at the individual meetings for the individual districts, it just jumps the gun. I really think it's better to hear what the constituents want, get feedback from them before you move forward on any of these decisions, since these are directly related to the Shaco baseball issue. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Kim Allen, and citizen of Richmond, and representing the newly formed group, People for a Just Richmond, we are in opposition to these proposals as they do bear on construction, the proposed construction of a stadium in Shockoe Bottom. We, the citizens, have yet to hear fully those proposals and think that this vote would be preemptive. Again, on record for opposing this decision at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Or excuse me, thank you, Dr. Allen. Yes, sir.
My name is Roy Bryant. I'm down here tonight. I really don't know why, but I'm here. It's cold as I don't know what out there today, Mr. Samuel. But I'm here as representing the Richmond branch of the NAACP. We are definitely going to be opposed to this because there's not enough information and we do not have enough people, citizens, to be involved. To me, what is the urgency for this all to happen right away? Look like to me it's being said, well, do we have letters from the other counties? Regional cooperation. That's what you've been hearing, that's what's going on. But do we have anything from the other counties? I would like to see something from the other counties saying what's going to happen, that they agree. Because we can't continue trying to put burdens on the taxpayers to pay for all of this type of stuff. So I ask you all today is to postpone this and give us a chance and an opportunity to get enough citizens' voice into the situation. It's one-sided. I see the baseball diamond down in Shockoe Bottom, but it's not no diamond down there. But it is a diamond on the boulevard. But if we buy the land from under the RMA, well, then you're going to give it back to the RMA to say, well, we have two choices where we can have the baseball diamond. But if you eliminate the baseball diamond up there on the boulevard now, guess what? We won't have number one choice. So I do not see this as doing anything but hurting our chances to find, to be, how you say, kind to our neighboring counties, if we are talking about regional cooperation without, and that means being honest with one another. I don't see it. I see that sound like somebody's doing something underhanded to me. And I ask you all to hold it off. What is the urgency for a minor league baseball team? So I ask you to just hold it off until after January. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Folks, just so you know, there's a total of 30 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition. We're doing fine on time, but if you hear what someone else has said and you just want to say, I agree, you might allow more people to speak because we're getting...
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lily. I'm speaking in opposition to all ordinances affected with the sale of property on the boulevard. We want to issue a clarion call for all persons under the sound of my voice to call your council persons in opposition to this measure. This is a humanity issue for me, and I will hope that you all would not vote in favor of any of this. It's not economic based at all. The jobs they're going to create are less than living wage, and we really need to look at this very closely. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, could you state your name again for the record?
What was that?
Could you state your name again, please, for the record?
Lily Estes.
Thank you.
Lillie, not the Ly.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Gray, and I live in Churchill. If you vote on these ordinances tonight, the administration is calling the shots. Hold off voting on these two ordinances until you and the public are presented with all pertinent information, rendering, and plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Randolph Bell. To speak very briefly, I very respectfully request that the council postpone vote on these issues this evening, because though conceivably there could be reasons to favor them, that do not relate directly to the baseball project. I think in most minds they very clearly do, and I believe you yourselves see them in that context. In the course of public discussion to come, it may well be the case that alternatives for dealing both with the issue of baseball and especially with the hallowed historical ground of the bottom will arise. And it is that latter point that is, I think, most at issue here. We get as a city only one opportunity to determine what happens with that ground, which in its entirety was one huge united enterprise for the sale and oppression of human beings, a site which in many publicly offered comparisons has been linked to Auschwitz and other sites where humanity went awry. It is not to say that we must, as a city, wave the flag of our sins only, but rather the flag of our amending of our erroneous ways. Richmond, in many respects, is a city of rights, both of their denial and of their restoration. We need to do this right. This is a historical mandate which history will judge. Thank you. Please postpone vote this evening.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marion Rucker, and I live in Churchill. We know these ordinances that are to be voted on tonight are for the sole purpose of preparing the mayor's plan for Shockoe Bottom, and we have no idea what they want to put on the boulevard. We were told that we were going to see both plans, and yet as of now, we do not know. So how can you vote on something that you have no idea what it's going to be? I respectfully request that you postpone these ordinances till January. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker in
Walker,
opposition.
citizen of the city of Richmond. I am in same opposition as others that spoke ahead of me. My biggest question is why now as opposed to 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that this has no bearing on anything, regarding the new diamond or potential diamond. Why was this not discussed or brought to city council before the squirrels even came? Why is this, why all of a sudden now? Is there a time constraint? Was that brought out by CAO Marshall? Is there a necessity for it to happen today? So it leaves a whole lot of, suspicion to the question as to why now, why not then? If we're seeking the potential of another possibility of a baseball team, if the Squirrels choose not to, if we do not go forth with the proposed Shockoe Bottom, why can't we go after another team in the original diamond? I'm feeling like the city is being held hostage, for the purpose of someone else's gains. However, and I do believe that if the Squirrels chose not to go forward with the Squirrels in the city of Richmond as a direct result of not having a new stadium, that we go after another team and do the improvements on the current and still seek that of which was discussed 40 years ago by the RMA. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Silver Persinger. I'm a citizen in Richmond, Virginia. I'd like to speak in opposition to these bills being considered tonight. You've heard from many members of the community who are urging you to postpone these papers. The fact that these papers were printed on the agenda that they would be continued is a fact alone that warrants their continuation. These papers short circuit the public debate and do limit the options that the city has and where to locate the stadium. Please continue these papers. Thank you.
Would those who wish to speak in favor of this paper please step, or these papers, plural, please step forward. Everybody else who wants to speak in favor, please step up behind this gentleman here. Last call. Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jimmy Jarvis, and I'm speaking in support of this, not as a judgment on the future ballpark location, wherever it is, but because it's, to my understanding, these issues are going to have to be voted on eventually anyway, and that they're rectifying a problem with the original placement of the park on the boulevard and the agreement with the city between the RMA. If this is continued, then it would seem that all of this time that we've spent talking about this has been wasted. And I think it would also put some greater time constraints when the actual ballpark resolution is discussed. If we have to continue this as well, something that is ancillary to the actual ballpark plan, then it would seem like a waste of time. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bringing it back to council, I'll say that it was printed to say that it was continued until January 27th. This was because there was a third paper regarding a lease agreement that the city would enter into. That paper was withdrawn. You may recall we had asked to see copies of the lease, and that's why this paper has been continued a couple of times. With the withdrawal of that, we no longer need to see the lease since it's not going to be before us. And so there was some discussion about whether or not these papers should remain continued like the lease paper, or if it was okay to vote on them tonight. Because the next anticipated council public hearing on the baseball ordinance was for January 27th, I made a recommendation that we just tag these on to that. We'll have a public hearing on all of them at once. However, the General Assembly starts on January 6th, and there was some concern that with various papers at the General Assembly, that this could fall apart. We could no longer maintain control of the 60-acre parcel of land on the boulevard. So there was a question as to whether or not we should move this forward so that that didn't happen in votes at the General Assembly. My belief is that in either the 21 days, or if we did it at the first meeting of City Council, 7 days into the General Assembly session, the General Assembly would probably not have a chance for both the Senate and the House of Delegates to vote to do something awful to the city of Richmond regarding this, and have it signed into law by what is now the governor-elect, what will then be the governor. And that still is my preference. As City Council President, however, my job is to run the meeting and make sure that all voices are heard, and that most definitely is includes my fellow council members. And I believe there was a desire here tonight to pull these papers forward instead of drawing this process out, and instead vote on them tonight. Were a motion to continue put up, I would vote in favor of it, but regardless of when these papers are voted on, I plan on voting in favor of them. Because if you want baseball in the bottom, or if you want baseball on the boulevard, the city of Richmond needs to have possession, dominion, control of the land. That's what one of these two papers does. The other one erases an easement on the parking area around the baseball stadium so that we have possession of that property as well. This does not put us in a position where we have to vote in favor of baseball on the boulevard. It does not put us in a position where we have to vote in favor of baseball in the bottom. All it does is take the land back from the RMA when baseball is no longer played in the current baseball stadium. A lot of times when we talk about this, we'll say, look, it doesn't have to be, we won't have to worry about this. It'll just happen, we will get the land back when baseball is no longer played on the boulevard. That doesn't mean it's going to the bottom. What it means is the actual 1985 baseball stadium that is there now. We do need to do better with public outreach on this. Technically, it wasn't planned to be continued until about 3 p.m. today. So hopefully a lot of you all would have still come down, but it is on for tonight. So again, unless there's a motion to continue, I see my 3 minutes are up. Unless there's a motion to continue, we will have to vote on it tonight. But I want to explain to you all a little bit. One, it doesn't dictate where baseball goes. Two, whatever happens on the boulevard, we do need to have possession of the property. And three, I do think it should have been continued. Any other comments from council members?
Mr. President.
Mr. Hilbert.
I'm looking at this ordinance, and maybe I'm dismissing it here, but I don't see explicitly stated about baseball still being played on this site. Now, that may have been the verbiage of the RMA resolution or whatever they passed, but I'm failing to see that except for the review by the city attorney of these documents, provided that the deed and such documents must be approved as to form by the city attorney or the designee thereof. Did I miss something?
Mr. Attorney.
The condition as described by the Chief Administrative Officer is not set forth in the ordinance. What the ordinance proposes to do is to authorize an acquisition of property for nominal consideration and it requires that any documents that effectuate the transfer have to be approved as to form by me. That's the extent of what's in the ordinance.
Okay. Mr. President, I make a motion that we continue these papers.
Yes, sir. There's a motion to continue. It supersedes the motion on the table. Is there a second for that motion?
A second.
Ms. Trammell seconds the motion. Motion to continue is before us. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bowles?
Mr. Hilbert, let's be clear about your motion to continue until January 13th?
13th.
First meeting in January. First City Council meeting in January?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And this would be items number 29 and 31.
Very good.
Council President.
I got two. I heard Agelasto and Robertson at the same time. Ms. Robertson.
The question I would like to ask before we vote on this is what impact, if Mr. Marshall could answer as it relates to the delaying of this paper in regards to our concerns with the General Assembly.
Councilmember Robertson, I can't say with specificity what papers will be filed at the General Assembly. What I can say is for the last several years, there have been papers filed to effectuate equalization of the RMA board. And my concern is that this does not be caught up in that conversation. And by the way, if you remember in the fiscal year 12 budget, when we began moving things, we began putting money in the budget to move things off of the boulevard, especially in the southwestern quadrant. It was with the understanding that we might be moving baseball to that area and that we needed to get control of the stadium at that point. So this is not something that came up in October. We've been talking about this for over 2 years.
All right, Mr. Agelasto.
I have two things. First, I support the motion to continue, and I say that largely due to how we communicate with the public on when there's an opportunity to come down here and speak. And I know when we were continuing the caravan papers, we asked the media to help get it out pretty quickly. And in this instance, from our informal session, when the agenda was moving along and the continuance was approved during the informal, members of the media did put out via social media that we had continued until January the 27th, which may have deterred some people from coming down here to speak. And I would support a continuance and making sure that as we make decisions, certainly we want to have flexibility, but we need to make sure that we are working lockstep as we go through our agenda forming. Secondly, I have serious reservations about the ordinance related to the deed numbered 2013-223, and I would actually ask that we amend this ordinance so that we can get some of the more specifics that have been addressed from CEO Mr. Marshall as well as the city attorney, so that it explains the timing, because currently this ordinance doesn't explain the timing and it doesn't explain the conditions. And from my general read of the ordinance, once we execute this, we take ownership. I don't see where it's going into escrow. I don't see where baseball no longer has to be a consideration. And I would prefer, if that's what we're being explained as the conditions, that those conditions be outlined in the ordinance itself.
Thank you, Mr. Agelasto. Is there anyone else tonight in the, my colleagues on City Council, anyone else who wants to speak? All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the continuance to the first meeting in January.
Council is voting on the continuance of items number 29 and 31 until the January 13th, 2014 meeting. Motion by Councilman Hilbert and seconded by Councilor Trammell. Mr. Bowles?
Aye.
Ms. Graziano?
Aye.
Mr. Agelasto?
Aye.
Mr. Hilbert?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Newbill?
Aye.
Vice President Robertson?
Aye.
President Samuels?
Aye.
That motion has been adopted, and those two papers will be before you again on January the 13th, 2014.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't say your city council doesn't listen to you. Now, no, I'm sorry, we can't, no applause, as much as we've earned it. Now, Madam Clerk, I believe that ends our regular docket, our regular agenda items.
That is correct.
All right, may we please move on to motions to amend and continue?
There are none for consideration this evening.
There are none for consideration this evening?
That is correct.
Okay. Then let's, may we please move on to, is there any objection if we do the consent agenda and let the rest of the folks that are here for a paper be allowed to move on with their nights? All right. We do the consent agenda next, please.
Okay.
Who's doing the consent? The consent agenda consists of item numbers, item 2, ordinance number 2013-233, to amend the special use of 2300 and 2306 Jefferson Avenue for the purpose of authorizing the sale of beer and wine for off-premises consumption. Item 4, ordinance number 2013-235, to authorize the special use of 1314 Parkwood Avenue for the purpose of permitting a two-family detached dwelling. Item 6, ordinance number 2013-238, to change the use of a portion of the public safety building located at 501 North 9th Street as a shelter for the homeless person exposed to extreme temperature and inclement weather. Item 7, ordinance number 2013-239, to amend City Code Section 90-256 to allow the display of banners along Robinson Street in the Fan District. Item 8, ordinance number 2013-240, to amend City Code Section 110-136 for the purpose of delaying an increase in the care service fare. Item 9, ordinance number 2013-241, to authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to accept $32,497.30 from the Richmond Metropolitan Authority for the purpose of funding maintenance on the Carytown parking decks located at 7 South Crenshaw Avenue and 16 South Colonial Avenue. And item 10, ordinance number 2013-242, to amend the Consolidated Action Plan for the purpose of accepting and appropriating additional funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $2,231,137 for various projects. Item 12, resolution number 2013-R257, to dispense with the December 23rd regularly scheduled meeting of council. Item 28, ordinance number 2013-180, to amend City Code Section 42-41 for the purpose of providing that sale proceeds from the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Community Facility properties be set aside to fund improvements, enhancement, and upgrades to the apartment's properties. Item 32, ordinance number 2013-237, to amend City Code Sections 114-433.2, 114-434.1, 114-436.1, and 114-438.1 for the purposes of imposing certain minimum ground floor area requirement and prohibit parking uses along a principal street frontage. Mr. President, that's all the consent agenda items.
Thank you very much. Are there those that wish to speak in opposition to any paper on the consent agenda?
My name is Chris Dorsey. I'm going to attempt to be as precise as I possibly can because I'm speaking against certain papers, but I'm not speaking against the what might be intended to be the how they are interpreted by the public. I'll start with ordinance number 2013-238. I think that obviously, since there's so much money that is taxpayer money from Richmond citizens that's given away to multi-billion-dollar corporations and multi-millionaire families, that we ought to have a place at all times for people who have no housing in the city of Richmond, and it should not be in a jail holding cell that's full of asbestos. So I think, first of all, the asbestos needs to be abated in all city facilities and buildings before people are going to be put inside there. But that being said, there ought to be a open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for people without houses in the city of Richmond. Also, we'll move on to ordinance number 2013-240, and instead of delaying an increase in bus fare for the care service, I think that the increase in the bus fares for the caravan ought to be canceled. And actually, since we've seen this body spend $10 million and give it away to a multi-billion-dollar corporation, the Washington Redskins, and a multi-billion-dollar corporation, Bon Secours, and a multi-trillion-dollar entity, the Catholic Church, that for $10 million, every single citizen of the city of Richmond could have free transportation. So that is what I think is definitely what should happen. And I see that ordinance number 2013-205 is continued again. I'll be back to speak against that. You've ripped up that neighborhood, and the neighbors aren't happy. Thanks. Peace.
Next speaker, please.
Brian Montgomery. I'm speaking on number 8 on the consent agenda. We can deal with the $3, the $2.50 to $3 raise in the fare. What we can't deal with is the $6 non-mandated fare, which will probably come back up either in March and take effect in July. I know that Henrico County and the city are at the table now discussing ways to hopefully do away with the $6 non-mandated fare, which includes the nights and the weekends. But customers can deal with better the $2.50 to $3. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Timothy Smalls. I am a resident, 741 Wyandotte Drive, a district member of District Councilmanic District 4. I'm speaking to you concerning the same ordinance that Mr. Montgomery was referring to, ordinance 2013-240. And we understand, as you all have probably now been made aware, that the Thursday, following the approval of the very controversial resolution during the month of October, the DRPT, in fact, did allocate $2.9 million to the Richmond area for transportation. And so our questions are, number one, because we know that very respectfully we appreciate that some council members who are currently present were amenable to bringing that question up at the time of that vote, and the fact that they were at least aware of the fact that there were funds coming in and we didn't know the contingency at that time. We now know the funds have been received. So my concern is that since that $2.9 million has been made available, what I'd like to ask is that this specific resolution be continued until we can find whether or not the funds that could match and eliminate the necessity for the 50-cent increase could be considered as being part of the allocation from the $2.9 million that was allowed to the GRTC. And also, on behalf of Driven, the Determined Richmonders insisting on Vehicle Equality Now, which was the nonprofit organization that was structured initially to fight the GRT service changes that were discussed by your body in October, and have decided to remain as a viable organization. And on behalf of Driven, I've been asked to remind you that if this particular resolution deals strictly with the $2.50 to $3.50 increase, please verbalize that, and we'd appreciate, Mr. President, if that would come from you, to as to alleviate the fears that it would not also include service cuts in the hours of GRTC caravan availability. Thank you.
Folks, with your permission, I'm going to jump in and address that. This paper tonight erases the $6 charge for essentially caravan extended that would have been implemented on January 5th. It does not address hours. It does not address $3 back to $2.50. All it addresses is reducing a $6 fee to back to a $3 fee. However, at the end of tonight's meeting, during the introduction of papers, another paper about caravan service will be introduced that moves the hours back to how they were before the first paper was passed. That paper will be introduced tonight. We're going to hold a special meeting on January 6th at 5 p.m., the beginning of our organizational development meeting, to vote on that paper, and that will keep the hours and the cost the same through June 30th, July 1st. At that point, we still have a budget shortfall. GRTC still has a budget shortfall. We're going to have to address that problem.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President.
Ms. Trammell.
I know that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. We have two more speakers.
I just wanted you to please repeat what you just said, because I know a lot of people are going to be calling, especially when you just said there's going to be a special meeting. It just breaks my heart to see all of them have to come down here again tonight. And as we heard one of the speakers speak tonight about how cold it is outside, can you imagine how cold it is for them, that they have to get out there and wait for someone to come back and pick them up? This is a hardship on these citizens. So if you could just repeat it again so people would fully understand exactly, because it was a whole lot you just said just now.
This paper reduced caravan extended trips from $6 to $3. And that is good until the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, July 1st. It does not address hours. There will be a paper tonight that is read into the record or introduced that addresses pushing the time frame back to the same times that are currently in place right now. That will stay good until June 30th of next year. At that point, these ordinances will kick in. The $6 will probably be there unless we find a good chunk of money to put towards this, and the hours will be reduced back to what was in this paper unless we find even more money to put towards this.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Gina McGee. I just wanted to personally thank you, council members, for bringing this paper back up. And I would like to urge you all to, I'd like to agree with what has been said so far. This is an issue that's of vital importance to so many people. The $6 is an unattainable amount for people who are relying on the service. I've been asked to personally speak for someone who can't be here tonight. Her husband's in the hospital, and this is addressing the hour change. If the hours were reduced to 8 p.m., she would not be able to visit her husband in the hospital. She would have no way to have transportation to get there. So I just urge council to please consider the comments that are being made, to try as best as we can to find some money to continue this at no more than the $3, even for the Care Plus extended service hours for weekends, holidays, and I just urge you to just look into every nook and cranny to try to find some extra money for this worthy program. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Montague Magruder. I'm speaking basically in opposition to ordinance number 8. I do not believe this should be delayed. I think this city council and basically the mayor, seeing that he's been talking about, eliminating poverty and whatnot, should be working ardently to find the money that the GRTC would need to close its shortfall. And I think that $2.9 million that they just received could be used towards that as well. So I think within the next couple of months, but before June, July, whenever this ordinance is supposed to take effect, that GRTC and City Council could go ahead, come to the table and work together and find the money. I mean, it should be obvious that the money is there, especially when you have the mayor trying to push an $80 million proposal to build a stadium in Shockoe Bottom on top of slave burial grounds. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And the $2.9 million is going to fund this reduction. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. My name is Catherine Walker, and I agree with everyone who has spoken so far. I just feel that this increase, 50%, is outrageous, and the cut in hours is also pretty strict because, as Ms. McGee just spoke, our friend Crystal, who could not be here because her husband is in the hospital in St. Mary's, which is in Henrico, I believe. Well,
it's in Henrico. It's on the number 1 route for GRTC.
But if the hours were cut, and she is off work this week on vacation, but if she wasn't, the hours would not permit her to be able to even visit her husband, and it's just a shame. I just hope, and I appreciate y'all bringing this back up. I just hope we can resolve this because it's not really that much money that it looks like to me. It's not that much money to be concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Belated Thanksgiving greeting and early Christmas greeting, New Year, Kwanzaa. Good evening to the President of the City Council and good City Council members, as well as the audience of this fair city of Richmond. I am W.B. Braxton Bantu of 517 West Grace Street, a.k.a. Skyleader Bat, an adamant advocate and seemingly grim guardian of the poor. I'm scheduled to appear before this council next month and next year on this very issue of the new cold weather shelter located at 505 North 9th Street, and to strive to eliminate the 3, now 4 major glitches. 1, the requirement, or is it an extortion, to seek a referral on a daily basis at the new location of Central Intake, 511 West Grace Street, next door to the Daily Planet, between 9 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. 2, the 9 p.m. curfew, which is too early a curfew. 3, the non-opening for inclement weather. For this past 2 Fridays, for the 27th, 2013, it could be argued that the cold, freezing rain is just as much a problem if the trigger temperature of 40 degrees and below is not present. The other glitch in the system, which will be coming up shortly, with December 24th, December 25th, days in which places such as the City Library and State Library will be closed early on the eve of December 25th or Christmas, and on the day December 25th, set aside to commemorate the birth of this planet's Lord and Savior, the Son of the God Most High, Jesus Christ, the libraries will be closed, and even McDonald's, some of them will be closed. Where will people go if the trigger temperature of 40 degrees and below does not fall on that date? I thank Jehovah I'm allowed to share this information, as well as to support this location of the real estate known as the Public Safety Building located at 501 North 9th Street for the emergency cold weather shelter. And it should include inclement weather, but it does not. The temperature must be 40 degrees and below, and one is forgiven 3 times without a referral. Those are some of the aforementioned glitches that I just read. I shall be returning next year and next month to speak on that. For the present, I will support the consent agenda that ordinance number 62013-238 to change the use of the portion of the city-owned real estate known as the Public Safety Building located 501 North 9th Street, so that such city-owned real estate will be used as shelter for homeless persons in the city of Richmond who will otherwise be exposed to extreme temperatures and inclement weather conditions. But in the future, I may return to argue that it be returned to a church in which the guests
Your
will have
time
the use
is
of
up. Thank you.
Yes, will have the use of a microwave TV and be a more comfortable environment. Thank you for allowing me to share. And there are some kinks that still need to be ironed out, but I still thank you that the location is convenient. It's on the bus line. I thank you. W.B. Braxton Band 2, a.k.a. Scout Leader Bat. I thank you.
Thank you. Those who wish to speak in favor of any of these papers, please come forward. All right, seeing none, bring it back to council for any discussion. Dr. Newbill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to simply again reference paper item number 2, ordinance 233, and would just like to again indicate that I've had an opportunity to meet with the property owner, the business owners. The Civic Association has expressed their support for this effort. And I certainly would like to commend the new business owners on being recent Bon Secours Seed Grant recipients, which means that they've agreed to partner in the East End community in the revitalization of that community by locating, in this case, near the commercial quarter, bringing an amenity that many are looking forward to. And so I would ask my colleagues this evening to support the paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Agelasto.
Thank you. I did just have one question that I hadn't previously considered with regards to the real estate under the Parks and Recreation Department. And my question is, since the Department of Parks and Recreation also operates our public cemeteries, where real estate property, I'm assuming, is regularly sold, but I believe that those funds are already earmarked for the maintenance of the cemetery facilities. Would this potentially override that such that those funds would then theoretically fund the maintenance of other park facilities that weren't cemetery related? I just want to make sure that we're not putting...
Mr. Agelasto, is your question, are we going to sell the cemeteries?
We are selling cemeteries.
Plot by plot.
So is your question then that money will go not to cemetery upkeep, but instead to Parks and Rec in general?
I just want to make sure that we're not enacting something that would potentially do that.
Dr. Newbill.
I am going to certainly ask Mr. Jackson to weigh in, but let me say it is not the intent of this paper that the sale of cemetery plot would inure to the benefit of Parks and Rec. Only actual physical locations, facilities, and there are about 3 of them, would the sale of actually go back to Parks and Rec. Absolutely not the sale of individual plots, but Mr. Jackson,
Mr. President, Mr. Agelasto, I can't quote you chapter and verse, but all of the financial aspects of cemeteries are run through a special fund, and I believe it would take a major stretch, and maybe even more than a stretch, to get this ordinance, 2013-180, to override the special fund, as well as all the specific ordinances that deal with the operation of cemeteries. But to give you chapter and verse, I would have to take some time.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the question.
Council is now voting on the consent agenda, which consists of item 2, 4, 6 through 10, 12, 28, and 32. Mr. Biles?
Aye.
Ms. Graziano? Aye. Ms. Mosby? Mr. Aguilesto?
Aye.
Mr. Hilbert?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell? Aye. Ms. Newbill?
Aye.
Vice President Robertson? Aye. President Samuel?
Aye.
The consent agenda has been adopted.
Thank you. May we please move to citizen comment period?
First citizen speaker is Omar Alim. Omar Alim.
Good evening, council members. I'm Coach Omar Alim, and I'm a Level 2 USA Olympic-style boxing coach. And I operate a boxing gym on the south side of 2424 Hull Street, and I live in the 6th district. And the reason I'm here today is to thank the council members for all the support. I want you to be aware of what we've been doing over the past 6 years. We started off at our home. My two boys' grades, one of my son's grades were D's and F in school. And he started to take up boxing and make a change in his life. He's both kids, by the support of the city council members, I was here a few years ago, and some of you contributed to their amateur career, and it's outstanding. They had 85 to 87 amateur bouts, we call it matches. We traveled all over the states, Colorado, San Antonio, Texas. They are silver medalists, bronze medalists. Also, they are managed now by Mr. George Peterson, and they are pro fighters now, 6-0 and 1-0. One of their first match was on HBO. And the reason I'm saying this is because it's a youth program, and it brings a lot of change to these kids that you don't know. They come in this gym with attitude, root to their parents, D's and F in school, and the gym make a difference. Big difference, anger management, grades, upliftment. And we just had a show and it was outstanding. And my gym has been one of the outstanding gyms in Virginia. And also, there's another thing. We are under DMV. You're not aware of that. It means DC, Maryland, Virginia. And I'm also in Region 2. Region 2 covered all 6 states. Okay? Now, these are some of my sponsors. One of my boxers, 6'11", and my young boxer, and some of my sponsors also would like to say something, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yes, good evening, Council. Richard Walker here. We just sponsored what you have in your packet there this past week in the amateur boxing tournament. You see the sponsors on the sidebar. It was an awesome event. We thank you, Councilwoman Newbill, for your attendance. It was an awesome event. We had the director for the state GRIP program, Ms. White, was there, that gave an awesome presentation on gang reduction, gang violence in the state of Virginia, particularly in the city of Richmond. We're looking forward to creating more programming for this as an outlet for our youth in that area, and we're seeking your support that there's some kind of form of funding may come through this council in order to fund these after-school programs. My partners, Bridging the Gap in Virginia, you see Blake Educational Center, EYPC, and other organizations, we work toward working with at-risk youth. We work toward building or outreach into the community of the city of Richmond. You know me from working with reentry.
Would you like to summarize in a sentence?
I'm summarizing now. Other parts of areas where with reentry, I want to get them before they get to the point of having to get them after incarceration. Catch them before now. We visit Norfolk, and they have multi-purpose
I really
centers.
appriered it, but
all right, that
time is up. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the good hard work that you guys are doing. Thank you, Coach Aline.
Mr. President, may I say something, please? Omar, I'd like to thank you indeed for all your hard work, and you know that Henry and I have been involved many years with your organization. You do a whole lot. You take a lot of those children in from Decatur Street, Stockton Street, Plain Street, all up in that area, and you do, I mean, you have changed many of the children's lives, and I just want that to be, I want it to be recognized tonight. And also, it just breaks my heart when you all do so much, and we don't have the news media that comes out and picks up on what you all do. And I know a lot of times you volunteer your time, and I know years ago you didn't even get paid a penny, didn't have any funding, and out there selling hot dogs and hamburgers so you could take the children on in a bus or in a van to get them to their all the areas that y'all needed to go so you could fight. And then they come back and you brought the trophies here to show everybody.
Medals.
But I'm willing to give again, and I know that my colleagues, and I thank my colleague Cynthia for attending Saturday, which I was not able to be there, and that's all she talked about, how much fun she had.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cynthia. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Mr. President.
Next speaker, Madam Clerk. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Dr. Needle.
Yes, before the coach leaves, I really would like to thank Coach Aline and really recognize him for the extraordinary work that he does with youth throughout the city of Richmond. The parents, all of the coaches, the referees, the folks who were there, but especially the young people that I observed. These young people were dedicated, hardworking, committed to the sport of boxing, and they were all winners. Just coming to it with that kind of attitude. This young man with all of the awards around his neck, I mean, it's just one of many that I saw, and I just want to commend you and encourage you to continue. It is making a difference in the lives of our youth, and I certainly thank my council colleague and her staff for making sure that I was reminded to get over there, but it was extraordinary, and congratulations, young man. Thank you to all of you.
Thanks very much.
Next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Next speaker is Jackie Thornton. Jackie Thornton. Roy Bryant. Roy Bryant.
I'm back again. And I thank you, Mr. Samuels and Mr. Hibbert. I had given y'all a call, and I did not get a call back. So I figured at the end of the year, I'll come here and bring my situation to you in public. First of all, regional cooperation, transportation is going to be the thing of the future. And I just want to say to you that we need to be looking towards that, because a lot of the things that we Richmond Metropolitan Authority and the MPO and everything that you're doing in your planning, we are looking forward to be able to be, how you say, cooperative with our neighbors. Being cooperative is going to be that we are going to be truthful with one another and not try to be deceitful and do underhanded type things or try to avoid from going to deal with a vote. This General Assembly is coming up, true, and a lot of things are going to happen this year. But I just want to say to you, we need to be involved because transportation will be needed for the people that are not working in the city of Richmond. They can't get to the jobs, all the jobs out in Henrico and Chesterfield. And they are just sitting around trying to figure out how they're going to get the job. You know, a lot of our people here in the city does not have cars. So it's very important. The other thing that I want to talk to you about is the social service adoption situation where some children got hurt because of individuals that worked in that department was negligence. I want to talk to you two somewhere sometime or another and find out how this is coming along. Because if I talk with the state, I don't have too much confidence in what they are doing. So I did not know at first what I came down here for, because I didn't think that they were going to have anything about baseball diamond. But these things here are all going to have to be shared among the counties and the city. And I would say to you, council person, we need to begin to look at that. And I will be trying to call you again. My name is Roy Bryant, and I will try to call you again in reference to that, because something has to be done about the social service department in this city. I thank you so very much, and y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. President, those are all of the speakers for this evening.
All right, that being the case, may we please move on to any expedited resolutions?
Yes, we have 3 expedited resolutions for consideration. Would you like to do all 3 of those together in a block vote? Okay, the first is resolution number 2013-R273. That's to approve $2,800 from the council district funds for the printing, for the 4th district, for the printing and mailing of 4th district newsletters for December 2013. Next, we have resolution number 2013-R274 to approve $1,600 from the council district funds for the printing and mailing of newsletters to 9th district residents. And last but not least, we have resolution number 2013-R275. That's to approve $1,000 from the council district funds for the 9th district to make a donation to the city Office of Virginia Cooperative Extension to assist the office with the funding of salary, programming, and operations. I will need a motion for expedited consideration of those 3 resolutions. Councilor Tramble, will you make that motion?
So moved, Madam Clerk.
Council is voting on Councilor Tramble's motion for expedited consideration of the 3 expedited resolutions as presented. Mr. Beliles?
Aye.
Ms. Graziano?
Aye.
Mr. Agelasto?
Aye.
Mr. Hilbert?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Newbill?
Aye.
Vice President Robertson?
Aye.
President Samuels?
Aye.
Those 3 papers are before you.
Thank you. Are there those that wish to speak in favor or opposition to any of these papers?
Thank you. Mr. President, my name is Timothy Smalls. I am now approaching you as a resident of the 4th District. My address 7401 Wyandotte Drive, zip code 23225. I lived in the 4th District, 4th Councilmanic District, since March. And from what I'm able to extract by the description of the expedited consideration, apparently this is a quarterly newsletter. And correct me, Mr. President, if I'm wrong. My issue, Mr. President, is that I've lived there since March and never saw a spring newsletter and never saw a summer newsletter. So what I would suggest, Mr. President, is that possibly this particular resolution could be continued until we can get some guarantee of U.S. Postal Service mailing for the newsletters, or in lieu of that, that this $2,800 allocation from council district funds be utilized to initiate a feasibility study for the creation of accessible restrooms for this building, as there are none. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak in favor or opposition to any of these papers?
All right.
Mr.
Good evening. My name's Silver Persinger. I'm a citizen of Richmond, Virginia. Tonight, the council is considering 3 expedited papers. 2 of those are to fund the printing of newsletters by council members to their constituents. I'm not opposed to that, but I'm particularly interested in this one, patroned by Councilwoman Mosby, to approve an expenditure in the amount of $1,000 from council district funds for the 9th District to make a donation to the City of Richmond Office of Virginia Cooperative Extension to assist the office with the funding of salaries, programming, and operations. Well, as a citizen, I don't think you guys should even be considering a council person's expedited paper when they aren't even present to discuss the item. I think that's the bare minimum you all should expect from a fellow council person that's asking you to bypass the committee. And, of course, the public had no notification of this paper prior to it's being read right here a few moments ago. But, in general, I'm not a fan of expedited papers. It bypasses the normal committee process. And again, if a council person wants to expedite a paper, I believe they should be present to defend their request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for any discussion.
Mr. President.
Vice President Robertson.
Just in the absence of Councilwoman Mosby, she had an emergency with a family member being sick is the reason why she's not here, and just so that the public would understand the reason why she's not here. She was here earlier and had to leave for an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments by council members? Mr. Hamel?
President, since the speaker brought that one paper up, could you please explain that a little bit, since he brought that up, so it don't look like that she is paying like a city employee or whatever out of her district funds?
Are you asking about Ms. Graziano's paper?
No, I'm sorry. No, not Michelle's paper. The one that Persinger just brought up in reference to.
Mr. President.
Vice President Robertson.
After the budget cycle, one of the directors of the Virginia Extension Services, which is a service provider that provides services to residents throughout the entire city of Richmond, had a significant budget shortfall for the year and asked several of the council members if they would be willing to consider making a contribution to the organization. It is a nonprofit organization that has been in business for quite some time, that provides a range of services for children through senior citizens. And we do fund the organization, and we have funded the organization for several years. There have never been any complaints about the services, and so it was asked upon us if we would consider, and I have agreed to make a contribution to them as well, as I know other council members has as well. And because our rules require us that if a contribution is made over $1,000, that is to come before the council, and that's the reason why the paper's before us.
Thank you, Ms. Robertson, for explaining that, and I also will make a contribution to that organization. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other hands rising, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council is voting on Resolution number 2013-R273, Resolution 2013-R274, and Resolution number 2013-R275. Mr. Beliles?
Aye.
Ms. Graziano?
Aye.
Mr. Agelasto?
Aye.
Mr. Hilbert?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Newbill?
Aye.
Vice President Robertson?
Aye.
President Samuels?
Aye.
Those 3 papers have been adopted.
Thank you. May we please move on to the approval of the minutes?
The minutes to be approved are from the Monday, November 25th, informal and formal Richmond City Council meeting. I will need a motion to approve those minutes. Newbill, will you make that motion?
So moved, Madam Clerk.
You're now voting on Councilor Newbill's motion to approve those minutes as read. Mr. Beliles?
Aye.
Ms. Graziano?
Aye.
Mr. Algelasto?
Aye.
Mr. Hilbert?
Aye.
Ms. Trammell?
Aye.
Ms. Newbill?
Aye.
Vice President Robertson?
Aye.
And President Samuels?
Aye.
Those minutes have been approved.
Thank you. Reports and announcements. Ms. Trammell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next 8th District meeting will be December the 19th. That's next Thursday, December the 19th, at 6 p.m. at the Satellite, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the location is 4000 block of Jefferson Davis. Our guest speaker will be Mark Ollinger. He's going to be there to speak to us about the Midlothian corridor, which there is a project going on that's going to benefit the 8th District and the 9th District. Also, our police chief will be there, and he's going to be there to introduce our 3 new captains. We have a new captain at 1st Precinct, 2nd Precinct, and 3rd Precinct. So if you want to know who your captain is at 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, please attend our meeting so you get to meet them. Also, Anthony McLean, he will be there to speak to us about how to prepare for, in case you have an emergency, a disaster with snow and ice and all that. What do you need to be prepared for in case we have an emergency? What do you do? Also, our firefighters from Station 21 will be attending and to talk to us about free smoke alarms and also how to prepare yourself in case you have a fire and how to prevent from having fires in your house. Also, we will be discussing the ballpark. We'll be giving, so many people have been calling me about the survey cards. Yes, we have had over 190 returned to me, and also we've produced another 200 and some. So we will be giving out the survey cards again. That is next Thursday, December the 19th at 6 p.m. at the Satellite. And everyone is welcome to attend. And if you have any questions, you can call my home. My home number is 233-7382. Again, 233-7382. And my personal cell is 240-5050, 240-5050. You can call me. This right here is your free smoke alarm, and I'd like to thank my colleague who promoted the free smoke alarms at the last council meeting for me. Thank you so much, Cynthia. You did a great job. This is the only thing that's free in the city right now. So if you would call these firefighters at 646-1526, 646-1526, they will come to your home, they will come to your apartment, they will come to your business, and they don't leave these smoke alarms. Our firefighters do not leave them. They will put them up for you. And if you need a battery, they'll put the new battery in it, and it doesn't cost you a penny. And if you have a cup of coffee, they'll have a cup of coffee with you too. Also, and they'll tell you, they'll check your home, they'll check your property to make sure that it's safe. Because I know that just in the past few weeks, I've had several fires, one last night in my district, and thank God they had working smoke alarms. These smoke alarms will save your life. It did for that family and the other family. So please, please call 646-1526. Let them come and put a free smoke alarm. Or go to your nearest fire station and tell them you need them to come to your home and set up an appointment with them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Agelasto.
Thank you, Council President. A few announcements here. We are hosting a holiday party for the 5th District, and all residents are welcome to join me and other city staff members at the Virginia Memorial this Thursday, December the 12th at 6:30 p.m. And we're going to be downstairs in the Freedom Hall. There will be plenty of fellowship with colleagues and neighbors, as well as some food. I've personally made several hundred cookies this weekend, so I think my colleagues on council know how my cookies taste. I think they get approval. So please come and join us, and we'll have a little bit of festivities together. Again, that's our 5th District holiday party this Thursday, December the 12th at the Virginia War Memorial, which is located at 621 South Belvedere Street, and there's free parking available. Also, I would ask all of the 5th District residents, and frankly anybody in the city who's interested in the Shockoe Bottom and Boulevard economic development plans, to attend our meeting that will be held on Thursday, January the 9th at George Wythe High School. We'll be meeting in the auditorium at 6:30 p.m., and we will have city staff available to make a presentation and have a discussion so that more people can be better informed as to the proposal and have your questions answered. A couple other announcements. January the 1st is right upon us, and most of the people who receive a utility bill have also received their pet license application for the 2014. Your pet licenses renew every year on January the 1st. It's a $10 fee per pet in your household, and it's a very good way for you to register your animal with the City of Richmond so that if there's an emergency and your pet is lost, they can return your pet to you safely. There's a way to identify them, and that's a pet license application. If you didn't get this, they're available here at City Hall, or you can contact Richmond Animal Care and Control or download it from their website. Also, Caritas operates a furniture bank in the city of Richmond, and they have made it known that there is an extreme shortage of available chairs and sofas, pots and pans, kitchen utensils, as well as linens. And this is a huge service to many residents in the city, and it's the only furniture bank in the region. And they've put out a call, and I very much would like for anybody who has extra furniture or pots and pans in your garage or your attic and you're not quite sure what you want to do with it, to please contact Caritas and make arrangements to deliver these so that they can go to people who really desperately need these supplies. And you can reach the Furniture Bank at 804-343-5008. And I would ask that anybody who operates rental properties, particularly now that it's the end of the year and the end of the semester, and a lot of our younger population in and around VCU may be moving out of their apartments. If you see furniture that's left behind, to call Caritas. It's a lot better reuse of that material than to simply put it out on the curb and ask for the Department of Public Works to come and haul it off. So again, contact Caritas Furniture Bank at 804-343-5008. They would greatly benefit from your contributions, as will the residents of the city who are in need of these items for their household. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hilbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. This Wednesday, December the 11th, at 6 p.m., the 3rd District will have our district meeting, and that will be at Pine Camp, which is located at 4901 Old Brook Road next to Henderson Middle School. We'll be discussing, well, first of all, we're going to have the police department there regarding holiday safety and a performance by the John Marshall concert band. The main topic of the evening will be discussion of baseball in Richmond and economic development. There'll be presentations and a question and answer session, and excuse me, I would appreciate everyone coming out. I know that their passions are running high on this, and I want to make sure that we provide a forum where everyone can give their opinion and excuse me, on this important matter. So please come out this Wednesday, December the 11th, 6 p.m. at Pine Camp. Also want to remind everyone that the 3rd District has an email distribution list. If you would like to be added to that list, if you'd please call Lisa Towns at 646-6055 or email her at lisa.towns, Townes, at richmondgov.com. Please remember that your email information will be kept confidential. Finally, I wanted to add, if you would like to contribute to the John Marshall Field and the improvements, as you may recall, there was a grant received, and the students have at John Marshall had put together a fundraising program to help fill that gap. So I would encourage everyone to call Ms. Towns again at 646-6055 to learn out how you can contribute to that very worthy cause. Mr. President, this is our last meeting for the year, so I want to wish everyone happy holidays, happy New Year, And thank you to all of our great employees here at the city, particularly those that work with council. You all do a lot of wonderful work day in and day out in serving the citizens of our city and working through thick and thin, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hilbert. Mr. Beliles.
Nothing to announce tonight, Mr. President. I know that you and I are in discussion to set up a joint meeting about baseball. I believe it's tentatively scheduled for January 14th, but
And on my calendar.
we will confirm that and announce it on Facebook and social media and newsletters and all of that good stuff. And that will, I believe that's a Tuesday, January 14th. So pencil that in and we'll have official confirmation later this week or next. And just to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Beliles. Dr. Newbill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to simply thank those who came out to the very first community meeting in the 7th District on the Mayor's Economic Development Plan for Shockoe Bottom and the Boulevard. And I would like to announce the next meeting, December 19th, 2013, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Main Street Station 15 and Main Street. And this will actually be a joint meeting, joint community meeting with 6th District Councilwoman Ellen Robertson. So again, would like to invite certainly those residents of the 7th and the 6th District, but all interested citizens to come out to hear more about and to receive a presentation on the Mayor's Economic Development Plan for Shockoe Bottom and the Boulevard, and to have an opportunity to ask questions and to share your perspectives. Second, Mr. President, I would like to go on and simply recognize and more acknowledge the passing of former President Nelson Mandela, who was the president of South Africa for approximately 5 years, but most importantly leaves us a legacy of human rights and justice for all, for us all to emulate. Last, I would like to extend best wishes for an extraordinarily happy holiday season for all throughout the city of Richmond. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Graziano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Mosby and myself are having a joint district meeting January 7th at Lucille Brown Middle School. That's on the corner of Blakemore and Jank. It will be at 7 o'clock. And administration will be there to make a presentation, and then we will have discussion on the ballpark. That's my only announcement, except to add to everybody else's holiday greetings and say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and everybody drive safely. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple of announcements I'd like to make. On the 14th, which is this weekend, Saturday, the 6th District will be having its town meeting where the communities of Belmead, Eastview, Holland Park, Bawden Heights, and downtown will be coming together to celebrate and give recognitions to persons who have made major contributions throughout the year in the district. That meeting will be held at 5th Street Baptist Church, which is in Holland Park, and the meeting will start at 10 o'clock in the morning and conclude at 12. We will have representatives from the city to speak with us in regards to tax relief for the elderly as well as for those that are handicapped, and for veterans that are also disabled. This is a service that the city provides for persons that are 65 years of age or older. They must live in the dwelling. The limitation as it relates to income is for families that are $50,000 or less and have a net worth value of less than $200,000. So there are a lot of residents that live in the city of Richmond that are eligible to participate in this program, and I frequently find people calling that have gotten behind in paying their real estate taxes that are families that fall within this category and they are not aware of it. They have up and through April to make their application for this year. We appropriate the money in the budget to cover that cost, and frequently at the end of the year, the total appropriation is not used. So I want to encourage families that fall within those categories to make that application to the city of Richmond for those tax exemption for their real estate taxes if you meet those qualifications, as well as veterans. We will also have someone there to talk about fuel assistance. There are a lot of folk in the city of Richmond that desperately need support during the winter months to take care of their fuel expenses. We want everyone to be as warm as possible, and so that we will have a representative there to talk more about that. We also will be having a representative from the Workforce Innovative Center. If you have not been there, I would encourage people to go there. That is a really one-stop comprehensive service where lots of people are being assisted and actually getting valuable training for career development and job opportunities. And so we will have a representative at the meeting on this weekend, Saturday, the 14th, at Fifth Street Baptist Church to tell us more about how we can take advantage of those services and find as many opportunities as possible for employment for residents of the city of Richmond. As Dr. Newbill has mentioned, we will be joining forces on the 19th, which is next week, Thursday, from 6 to 8 at the Main Street Station to have a presentation of the mayor's Shockoe Bottom development and give citizens an opportunity to better understand that and get their questions answered. Also on Tuesday this week, the Greater Richmond Transit Company is having a public meeting to inform bus riders of the transfer station that they will be opening on 9th Street between Marshall and Lee. So if you're a bus rider or know someone that does, I think it would be very important for you to attend this meeting and understand how this transfer station that is being put in place will change your destination as to where you routinely catch your bus and what other impacts it may have on your bus scheduling. It will be held at the University of Richmond, which downtown at the corner of 7th and Broad Street, and it will start at 5:30 this week, Tuesday. Other neighborhood events that are taking place in celebration of the holidays, there will be a community tour of homes of families and friends in the Highland Park community on December the 17th. That tour will start at 6 o'clock, and you can call my office for information on the route of the tour if you're interested in that, and that number is 646-7964. That's December the 17th. On December the 19th, we are welcoming the new residents from the Highland Grove community by having some Christmas caroling. I don't know whether or not I'll be leading that because I don't know if I sing very well to do that, but we'll have fun with it anyway. And we will be actually going down on the new Cannon Creek pedestrian and bike trail and celebrating the holidays with singing Christmas carols. So we encourage residents from the New Highland Grove community to join us on December the 19th, and we will meet right there at the community at the corner of First and Dove. And I also would ask that we all keep the families and the citizens of South Africa in our prayers as they mourn the loss of such a great leader that have had a tremendous impact on the entire world. It's a tremendous loss, but a tremendous contribution that have been made to society. And with that, Mr. President, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and to all of my colleagues and their families. Happy New Year. We look forward to bringing it in a powerful way into all of the citizens of the city of Richmond. Thank you.
Ms. Trammell.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I apologize, I forgot to say something. I think my colleagues, I want to thank all of you for wishing all of our city employees a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and also thanking all of them for what they do, because many of our city employees go beyond the call of duty when it comes to helping all of us. And also, I like to thank the men and the women that are in the military that are not able to be with their families, and especially the ones that work for the city of Richmond, and also in the police department, fire department, even doctors. I found it, even doctors are in Iraq and all of that serving our country, and they're not going to be able to be here this year with their families. So I just want them to please be safe, and God bless all of them, and God bless their families back home, and God bless them. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to the Fan District Association for another successful holiday house tour, which is especially impressive based on the weather this past week. And so good job to my very own neighborhood. Thursday, December 12th at 5:30 p.m. at the Redskins training camp, the 2nd District will have its first chance to hear the presentation from the administration regarding the proposal for baseball in Shockoe Bottom. The room seats 60. So if you would like to come, please do so. You do not need reservations. You do not need a ticket, but it only seats 60, so please get there early. It starts at 5:30, Thursday, December 12th, at the Redskins training camp. Our staff is working to reschedule a budget meeting with the administration. We're currently waiting on confirmation for Monday, January 6th at 3 p.m., and then at 5 p.m. we'll start our organizational development meeting. And like my colleagues have so rightfully pointed out, the world lost one of its true examples of what mankind is capable of this past week with the passing of Nelson Mandela. I think everybody probably has a favorite quote, but at the end of the day, his life was an incredible example to each of us of what a human can accomplish. Having said that, unless anyone else has forgotten anything, Madam Clerk, would you please read in the papers for introduction?
Mr. President, the introduction on papers for this evening are as follows. Item ordinance number 2013-246 to conditionally rezone 109, 111, 113, 115, 117, and 119 South First Street from the M1 Light Industrial District to the B5C Central Business District. Planning Commission public hearing date, January 6th at 1:30 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 13th. Ordinance number 2013-247, and that's to amend the special use of 1 North Boulevard for the purpose of permitting 2 additional lodging units. Planning Commission Council public hearing date, Planning Commission hearing date, January 6th at 1:30 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 13th. Ordinance number 2013-248 to authorize the special use of 112 North Meadow Street for the purpose of permitting office and personal service uses. Planning Commission, January 6th at 1:30 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 13th. Ordinance number 2013-249 to amend the special use of 312 Granite Avenue and to authorize the special use of 308 and 310 Granite Avenue for the purpose of the conversion of the existing single-family dwelling for office use, personal service businesses, and retail sales, and the accessory structure for limited service businesses. Planning Commission, January 6th at 1:30 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 13th. Ordinance number 2013-250 to authorize the CAO to execute an agreement between the city and the Economic Development Authority for the purpose of providing for a Hull Street Commercial Corridor Facade Program. Finance and Economic Development Standing Committee, January 16th at 3 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 27th. Ordinance number 2013-251 to declare that a public necessity exists for and to authorize the acquisition by gift, from USP Echo Harbor LLC of the permanent and temporary easements on 3011 and 3021 Dock Street for the public purposes of the construction of the Virginia Capitol Trail Project. Land Use and Housing Transportation Standing Committee, January 21st at 3 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 27th. Ordinance number 2013-252 to amend City Code for the purpose of delaying the changes in hours during which care service is provided. Special council public hearing date, January 6, 2014 at 5 p.m. Resolution number 2013 R276 to request that the mayor identify in his proposed annual budget for FY 2015 funding for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in the maximum amount of $5 million for each fiscal year for 5 years. Finance and Economic Development Standing Committee, January 16th at 3 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 27th. Resolution number 2013 R277 to approve plans for the 9 Mile Road redevelopment and conservation area. Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee, January 21st at 3 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 27th. Resolution number 2013 R278 to request that the CAO pursue the collective designation of Lumpkins Jail, the Slade Trail, and the Richmond African Burial Ground as a United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organizational World Heritage Site. Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee, January 21st at 3 p.m. Council public hearing date, January 27th. Mr. President, this concludes the reading of the new legislation for this evening.
Thank you. Unless there's any additional comments by council members, this meeting is adjourned.
Well, just about 2 hours and 15 minutes. We got started right around 6:05 tonight. Call to order, appointments and reappointments, awards and presentations, the agenda review, and then we started with the regular agenda. Just 2 items were left on the regular agenda, and they're both concerning RMA and the Diamond property and the parking lot by the Diamond. Basically, according to the CEO, or the CAO rather, what he said was what these papers basically say that once baseball is no longer played at the Diamond, the property reverts to the city from RMA. Well, we had over a dozen people speaking against it. Some are saying just against it. Some saying we should continue these papers because they originally said they were going to be continued, and so they should be continued until we've had a better chance to look at them. Only one person spoke in favor of going ahead and voting on it tonight and voting in favor of it. Then Councilmember Hilbert moved to continue the papers to the January 13th, 2014 meeting, which will be our next regularly scheduled meeting. And that one was called for a vote. That passed unanimously, 8-0. Councilmember Mosby having to leave early due to an emergency. We hope everything's okay there. So that took care of the items on the regular agenda. Then we went straight to the consent agenda. Most people speaking on that were concerned with the care service fare that was going to go up to $6 from $3. Well, that has now, according to this paper, once this paper got passed, that fare increase was delayed until at least July 1st of next year. That was, they found the money was appropriated in the current budget, so at least until the end of this fiscal year on June 30th, that fee will remain at $3. New paper will be coming in to be voted on in January about restoring the hours that would be lost under that paper that was passed in October. Let's see, then we got to, so that was basically it. Then the consent agenda was agreed upon 8-0, and that took about 25 minutes. Got the citizens' comment period. That only lasted about 10 minutes. Expedited resolutions went about 5 minutes on those. Then we got the approval of minutes, reports from council, the introduction of papers, and that's it until next year. They are dispensing with the meeting that would be 2 weeks from tonight on December 23rd. And so we're going to take a break here until January 13th, our next regularly scheduled meeting. So until that time, let me take this opportunity to wish you all a joyous Kwanzaa, a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Please drive carefully, please use extreme caution over these holidays because a lot of people will be on the roads. Be careful with your wiring for Christmas lights, etc., because we want to see you back here safe and sound with us on January 13th. So until that time, for Gavel to Gavel, I'm Dick Harmon saying good night.